Today we're learning about reflecting as one of our transformations. A reflection is when an object flips. It creates a mirror image of the original figure. You guys have learned the term of flipping for years now, and now it's time to use those 8th grade words and start using the term reflection. The image of the original figure is the exact same size and shape, which means they're congruent or identical. The line of reflection is the line where the image reflects, and we'll work more with that when we're graphing, but that's just the line in which it reflects. It could be the y-axis, the x-axis, it could be other lines on a graph when we get to that, but that's just where that mirror image happens. In our first problems we're going to do, we have to identify a reflection. So we have to tell whether the light figure is a reflection of the dark figure or if the blue figure is a reflection of the red figure. We have to use that line of reflection to see if it's a mirror image. You guys can also call that line of reflection as the line of symmetry. That's what you guys have learned as the past. I'm only going to do a couple of them, but this first one, we have our line of symmetry going on right here. So we need to see if it creates a mirror image, and it indeed does. So it does create a mirror image, and you can say that. The example does say to explain. So what I would write is yes, because it creates a mirror image. Okay, so that's what it's going to say for this this first one. Now I'm going to jump over and do the example all the way to the right, okay? And we're going to look at our line of reflection here, okay? So let's look at these pentagons and see if they are a line of reflection and create a reflection. When I'm looking at these two figures, they do not create a line of reflection, however, they show a translation. So no, there's no reflection. The figure translated instead it slid. So now we're able to use our other vocabulary from other lessons that we learned and see that, hey, it didn't reflect, it's not a mirror image, it actually just translated, it slid instead. Go ahead and do the other 4 examples on your own and see how you do. Now in our first example of using the graph, we have the vertices of a quadrilateral, which are P, Q, R, and S. Remember, vertices are the corners where 2 lines meet, the points of a figure. We need to draw this figure and its image after a reflection in the y-axis. So the y-axis is something very important. I'm going to circle it. The y-axis, and I know I gave it to you on your graph, is the vertical axis. And you guys can remember it too. If you think about the letter Y, it has a line, a tail that goes down. So it's the vertical. So what we're going to do is we're going to write the first vertices. And so we have P, which is -2, 5. We have Q, which is -1, -1. We have R, which is -4, 2. And we have S, which is -4, -4. Or -4, +4, I'm sorry. So what we are going to do after we have written them in our charts, we are going to go ahead and plot those points and label the vertices. Remember, you have to label. So I'm going to do my different points and label them. You guys do the same. All right. Also make sure that you guys connect the dots to make that quadrilateral. Quadrilateral, by the way, means a 4-sided figure. Now it says to reflect over the y-axis. Well, I already highlighted the y-axis. So we are now just going to make sure that we create a mirror image. This is how I do it. I'm going to look at P first, right? So P is 2 spots away from the y-axis. So I'm going to keep it at the same distance and plot it 2 spots away on the opposite side. And again, you have to label it, but remember, it's the image, so it's P prime with that apostrophe afterwards. Same with S. S is 4 away from the y-axis, so I keep it 4 away this way. It becomes S prime. Go ahead and do it with the other 2 points and connect the dots and try to be a little neater than I am. I get kind of sloppy. Then you plot the points. Now we're going to write the new coordinates of our quadrilateral. So we have P prime, we have Q prime, we have R prime, and we have S prime. So my new point for P prime is we go over 2 and up 5. For Q, I went over 1 positive, but then I went down 1, which is a negative 1. For R, I went to positive 4 and up 2. And for S, I went to positive 4, up 4. Now, one thing I want you guys to write in the middle section of this chart is the difference. How did I get from this P value to this P prime value? What is the one difference and the similarity between all 4 of our new coordinates? If you haven't figured it out, I'll write it up here. When you reflect across the y-axis, the x value is the opposite, or the first value. So if you guys look at our different points, we had a -2 for 5 for our first vertice of P, but then P prime, it became positive 2. For Q, it was -1 and then became positive 1. So whenever we reflect across the y-axis, the x value is going to be the opposite, or its exact opposite. If it was positive, it's negative, negative, it's positive. Now we have a couple more examples to do. I'm going to do the first one with you, and you guys are going to keep that last one for yourselves. The vertices of a quadrilateral are A, B, C, and D. Draw this figure and its image after reflecting in the x-axis. Then we have to write the new coordinates. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to plot my points for that original figure. Make sure you label. A, B, C, D. Now, because it's a shape, you guys have to make sure that you are actually connecting the dots. Okay? Now, we're reflecting at this time across the x-axis. That is the horizontal axis. You guys should start knowing those differences. So, instead of flipping left to right, we are now going down to up. So, I'm going to go ahead and count. I see that A is 3 below the line, so I'm going to go to 3 above. Okay, so that is A prime. B is 1 below, so it's going to go 1 above, B prime. C is 1 below, it's going to go 1 above, C prime. And then D is 3 below and 3 above. We'll go right there, and I connect the dots. Now I'm going to worry about my new coordinates. A prime is now -4, 3. B prime is -4, 1. C prime is -1, 1. And D prime is -1, +3. Now we talked about this with our last example, where if we reflected over the y-axis, the x value becomes the opposite. Now when we went around the x-axis, our y values become the opposite. So what that means is our y values, which are the second value in your coordinates, they became all positive this time because they were negative originally. Look at this A. A, we had -4, -3, but now its image, its prime coordinate, becomes -4, +3. So it's a good little quick test that if you're reflecting along the x-axis, your y values, your second value, are the opposite number. Go ahead and do the next example on your own.